here we are in our final week. Well, it's hard to believe we've arrived here, but I think we're all due for a little bit of self-congratulations, making it here all in one piece together. Learning how to be expert facilitators in this course, the Strategic Communicators Toolkit. So before we continue, I think you should feel free to pat yourselves on the back. I know and you know that we've broken new ground here in our discipline, learning, in fact, how to take charge of a situation, use the resources that we have in order to be expert managers. We've learned that being a good manager means being a good communicator. Well, this week we're going to take things a little bit differently. We're going to step back a bit and take the time to bring a lot of the concepts and ideas we've been talking about individually, bring them all together, and actually learn what it really takes to take charge of a situation and manage the resources we may have at our disposal for very specific aims. Let's continue. All right, leadership. Well, throughout the course, we've placed an awful lot of emphasis on the collective nature of each of our assignments and even the discussion topics in order to emphasize how good project contributors, whether you're working in a supervisory capacity or just as a participant, are especially adept at communicating in a concentrated yet authoritative fashion to a diverse audience, all the while providing effective feedback whenever possible. Sounds easy, right? Okay, I know, it can sound difficult. Now, we've seen in each of these cases accordingly that communication is dynamic, it's profoundly interactive. Our last topic is going to focus on how these situations inevitably demand strong leadership skills. It's a mandate that rarely refers to the mere execution of just a bunch of administrative tasks and duties here, but instead, it's something that we seek to provide inspiration with. Being a good leader, as you recall, means being a good source of inspiration within the team or collective you may be working. And yet, while making sure that any ideas you want to develop are firmly based upon the strengths or the fortes that you perceive in these enterprises. At the same time, leadership also requires us to have the courage to define the boundaries, and when we don't see the strengths we think should be there, to provide direction that might be lacking. So let's begin by defining exactly what we mean by the term leader. I'll make it easy. I'm sure we can all define an array of different roles or titles we've come across in our various jobs and professions, right? Program manager, okay. Project manager, sure, if we work in software. I'm sure we've even met a few scrum masters in our day. Various kinds of leads are also here. Tech leads, test leads, infrastructure leads. You know, if you're responsible for folks working together towards a common goal, then I think you have the right to call yourself a leader. Doesn't matter what your title might be. You're a leader when you're actually focusing on a common goal together. If there's a single division between different styles or positions of leadership in a project, then I'm going to emphasize that for this week, those that typically face various stakeholders outside the project being developed, and those that focus more conversely on managing the team itself, those are the two different levels of leadership that we're going to be concerned about the most. Now, this doesn't mean we're talking about two different people, but we are definitely talking about two different focuses and two different aims. Regardless of these different focuses, leadership principles commonly require us to prioritize individuals, including how we interact with each other, over just a bunch of processes and tools. Now again, this point may seem self-explanatory. I mean, who among us doesn't recognize the essential value in any project of having skilled and capable team members over a lot of expensive technology? Well, the very fact that we often overestimate just how efficiently or adroitly these team members have been outfitted with enough time and sufficient resources to get the work done can actually mean that we're not quite as focused on the human element as we like to think we are. Now, I'm sure none among us would enjoy being identified as a micromanager. We just don't like that kind of management technique, and I agree. It can be more trouble than it's worth. We probably take pride over how quickly we easily allow our coworkers to take on tasks independently. One of our discussion topics this last week is actually going to center upon actual techniques in determining the right amount of autonomy individuals need to achieve their goals, and also, again, when and how to offer guidance to help direct tasks if we see that guidance is lacking. Surprisingly, the tools we look at this week are actually going to come second to the actual methods that enable us to build projects around specifically motivated individuals, and then give them the environment and the support that they need to get the job done. In other words, trust itself among colleagues isn't going to be something that comes out of the literal planning stages of our projects. That's backwards. We're actually going to see that it's not the people you're with that end up discovering the projects. It's actually the people we're surrounding ourselves with and their respective strengths and skills that become the determining factor for deciding just what kind of projects we want to develop. So in other words, we don't discover the people through the projects. We discover the projects through the people. The second key point of focus this week is going to begin simply by acknowledging that the world we continue to live and work in is not just fast-paced, as we've said before, but actually constantly changing. And these two qualities need to be considered intelligently if the team we're leading is going to be consistently effective and productive. Teams do not stay static. At least that's usually the last quality you want when you're working collectively on any project. Anytime things are actually seeming to stay static, probably not moving as quickly or as innovatively forward as we should be. We're going to look specifically at some of the more contemporary theories regarding patterns of team development and how these patterns can be appropriated usefully with social media. One of the skills we might be looking at is Bruce Tuckman's 4 stages of actually engaging in team building together. You remember those stages: forming, storming, norming, and performing. So what are our tasks this week? What are our goals this final project we're going to be working on? Well, social media and augmented reality technologies to organize and manage group situations are going to take the front row and center here. Leadership skills via established communication collaboration techniques with a particular emphasis on agile project management methods are going to be a main focus. You're going to engage with an established augmented reality tool, something that we call Erasma. I don't know if you've used it before, but you're going to learn how to use it this last week. It's really quite interesting. You'll be creating an augmented reality experience for the screen using videos, information catalogs, models, and other teaching aids to design and promote a project campaign that you choose to do. Now, this last week, as you can probably guess, doesn't necessarily end right at the very end of the course. We're going to try and develop projects that we can continue beyond this project, beyond this course, into something we can develop ourselves. All right, this is probably the most challenging week, but of course the last week should be the most challenging. We have the skills, we have the techniques, we have methods at our disposal. We've come a long way, and we're going to get the chance this week to actually put some of these things to use. All right, I'm looking forward to working with you and seeing what kind of projects we develop together.